What's up, baby?
Well,
I appreciate you taking time to do this. For those of you listening, this is going to be kind of a reintroduction to my buddy, BJ. We are working on a book, and part of that book process is we're going to have the correlating podcast link with the chapters, almost like kind of a read along. This one's going to be a little out of sync only because BJ, you were one of the early guests, and we didn't quite have the recording and the tech down, even though we're still working on it, but it was kind of rough. So kind of reintroduce yourself.
Listening back to that first one was a little rough.
I think it's all good, bro. But dude, honestly though, I love talking about it anyway, because it just ties in, you and I met at the academy, Hillsborough County. And, even though we had very different backgrounds, you grew up in the inner city of Tampa, but we both played football. We both played college ball. Did you play at an HBCU? I don't think I asked that question. It was an HBCU?
I went to two HBCUs, actually.
Which ones?
I was at Grambling for a year, and then I transferred to Bethune-Cookman before I finished up.
That's right. Okay. That's right. And then, just kind of how things work and timing lines up, yep. Boom. You and I ended up going to the police academy at the same time.
Rest history, as they say.
As they say, bro. But I'm excited to get into it, bro. And I guess we'll just start off the way we typically do. And, how did you grow up? Where did you grow up? And then what got you into law enforcement?
Yeah, man. So I'm originally born in Tallahassee. My parents went to school at Florida State. My parents went to school at Florida State. They moved back down here. I think I was probably like maybe 2 or 3, something like that. So I spent all of my memory, per se, is Tampa. I'm just saying I'm from here. A lot of my time was spent in Temple Terrace, Tampa, that little general area. I'm what they call not a transplant, as they say. Which is strangely enough, is Tampa now is so popular. People, a lot of influx, people just like moving here, and they always seem surprised. They're like, "You're from here?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Yes. Had a whole life. Tampa was here before you guys got here. I've had a whole life here. People that I grew up going to school with, people that I've known. We went to the same elementary, middle, high school, even though people went to the same college together. And so a lot of my time spent obviously here. In school, pretty good student, pretty good, childhood. Nothing with my life experience now, I can look back and say nothing crazy about my childhood. Very, very, very good childhood, loving family, great parents. I played sports all growing up, so I've always played sports. Probably since I was
Which ones did you play besides football? I know, we know we played football, but what else?
I've done everything, bro. A lot of people don't know this. My first true love was actually baseball. I first started out playing baseball.
Yeah.
My mom and aunt played softball growing up, and they played intramural. So like my first introduction to sports was baseball, because it's like the first thing you can do. They didn't really have Pee Wee back then, like for the little tiny guys.
Yeah.
So baseball was actually my first thing, my first love. So I played baseball, basketball, football, gave tennis a go, soccer a go. Bro, my forehand's mean, bro. My forehand's mean.
Shit.
So like everything athletics and sports, bro, is on my background.
Let me ask you this: did you enjoy? Well, I enjoy playing baseball more than watching. For me to sit and watch an entire baseball game, I don't know that I've ever done it unless I was there live, like in the stadium. But like watch on TV, I can't do it.
It's definitely a different experience on TV, as opposed to being at the game and watching it. So it's similar to like golf. You know what I mean? Like golf's one of those things I can't really watch it on TV.
No, I can't. Yeah.
They're like you playing it, out on the green or whatever. It's a lot more fun and entertaining up close.
Yeah.
For me, hockey is the same way. I don't really know what's going on, you know what I mean, hockey-wise when I'm watching it on TV, but like to just be there in the atmosphere, it's a lot more fun.
Yes.
I can't say this. Sports growing up did provide me with a lot of structure, a lot of routine. I never took a break. I was never off of doing anything. I was always doing something year round. Summer ball, spring ball, basketball in the fall, in the fall or the winter. Obviously football in the summer leading into the fall, right? So I was just constantly doing something all the time. And that provided me with a lot of structure, ultimately, and kind of doing it that way kind of really just did set the stage college-wise, because so we both know it's a very, very structured environment. Once you kind of learn to get to that college level and everything is a little bit more structured, a lot more like a business. But I will say that, that's a small sidebar, and I'm sure you dealt with this too, as most athletes. Once at college did kind of zap some of the fun of playing a little bit because it was so business like, So it did take a while for me to kind of to get over that. That
Well,
was
and
a
also you're not hot shit anymore. It's like, yo, I was the starter, all American. Everyone on the team's like, yeah, me too. It's like, oh,
so,
my man pride.
my pride, my feelings.
Well, but before college though, because I always found this interesting, you went to like a gifted school. Was that like the Montessori school or whatever it was?
No. So I went to all my neighborhood schools, but I was always in the gifted program.
Oh, okay, I'm
So
sorry.
so I was
I was
always
mixing
in
up the things. Yeah.
yeah, I was always in gifted program, college prep, gifted, that whole thing. As my parents would say, like, you're too smart for your own good. It's like you seem bored with what's happening here. I'm like, it's not that. Some of that shit just doesn't excite me. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
into it. But I can, so I did that, the college or high school thing, which obviously got me into college thing. And then I think we actually ended up both getting our masters around the same time.
Yeah,
After
you and I did. Yeah.
at the same time. Looking back on that now, know what I know now. I didn't need it, but
What was your undergrad in?
undergrad was criminal justice.
See, so that's the difference between you and I.
Well, let me back up, sorry.
Okay.
My initial thing when I first started was pre-med, and then once I looked at all the, I love science, but I like the physics part of science. The biology stuff, that's not really so much my forte. I was like, yeah, I don't really know if I'm gonna like this for the long haul, so I ended up switching.
So why you were looking at pre med?
Yeah,
Started
I just
looking
I think the
across.
pre-med thing wasn't really gonna be probably my passion for the long run. It told me, hey, you're smart enough to take this route. But I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that though. I ended up changing that to something that and I can't even tell you that I 100% had interest in doing it, the criminal justice thing. But it was like, okay, if I want to do maybe like be a lawyer or something like that, this is the path you're gonna have to go down. And I'd much rather go down this path. That seems a little bit more practical for me and my interests as opposed to like the medical side.
Yeah. So it's funny. I have a baseball card from when you're elementary school or whatever. I think it was I was playing football, but anyway, on the back it said, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. And I wrote a bunch of things like elementary, middle school, stuff like that. And then when I became an adult, I was like, man, fuck that shit. Because you look at the amount of school, the amount of debt, if you got to, pay for it, which I would have. And then funny enough, once I became a cop and I started working in the hospitals, I was like, there ain't no fucking way. Cause I think of doctor as like, when you're a kid, you got to go get your shots and, whatever, just that kind of like calm environment. But then you go like, you realize that one, there's a lot of different specialties and all this other shit. And you go to a fucking hospital. And I'm like, these are some of one, people are gross. Number one. Two, people are dumb. And three, you'll have a guy walk in, collapse on the ground, start rolling around like he's in the worst pain of his life. And he's got like a toothache. Or then you'll flip side, you'll have a guy walk in holding his hand. He just cut his fucking finger off. He's like, yeah, I just cut my finger off. My wife's got it in the Ziploc bag. Like very calm. And I'm like, so you just, the way, I'm like, no, I can't do it, bro. And they talk, and people talk to doctors crazy, bro. I'm like,
the dude's supposed to say
wild,
right?
dude.
All right.
This dude could either make this go really easy for you, like give you the good stuff, or you're about to get a fucking IV to the
and
neck.
Now that we, like you said, doing the job for a while, and then you get to see like some of the the EMTs and like the on scene like shit, whatever. And I'm like, bro, absolutely. Absolutely not.
Hey,
absolutely not.
Hell no.
I don't like needles.
No.
I don't like. I mean,
nope.
I can handle it, but I'm like, I would prefer not to be dealing with blood and cuts and all that kind of shit. I was like, not broken bones, stick it. No, no, I'm good.
Bro, or the pus and the bleed.
To me, everything's a medical call.
Well, I told you one veteran deputy move, bro. You show up to a call and somebody shit themselves or puked all themselves. Nah, he needs EMS, bro.
He's clearly having some.
You're not getting in my car with that.
Clearly, some sort of medical thing going on. I can't.
Clearly, something wrong.
Absolutely not. Nothing. That's probably one of the better moves I've made in my life is transitioning away from that. No, I'm good.
Hell no. You know what? So you said lawyer. Have you ever thought about being a lawyer?
It has always kept a bit of interest in still. Like you said, once you start to kind of like see some like the other side of the legal process and how it actually really goes. See, I don't know what type of lawyer I'd like to be. I know those corporate lawyers are making bank, but that's a lot.
They're the ones making bank, baby.
A lot of reading, a lot of like fine print, and I'm like, that's not really like
Yeah.
exciting. You know what I mean? But even like the courtroom stuff. I mean, we've both been in court, and you're like, and I was, it sounds like we get the subpoenas. I'm like, why are you subpoenaing me? It's like, you didn't read the report, did you? I was like, I know you didn't, because if you did, you wouldn't be subpoenaing me.
Mhm.
So it's like, there's
Correct.
give and take. I know there's good and bad and all that kind of stuff, but I think ultimately, I think the application of the law is a little bit more interesting to me than the interpretation of it. So that's kind of what I guess is kind of keeps me involved, like mentally, with the job. I mean, because again, after a while, like anything you do in life, like the job is the job, right? But a lot of all these legal updates and
Yeah.
legal bulletins and whatnot, it kind of keeps it interesting. It makes it like I guess the challenge is doing a job within the confines of the rules, because we all know bad guys don't have to do that. It makes it therein lies the challenge.
Yeah. Well, because we've talked about this before. The only type of law that I like is the trial lawyer when they go into trial. But again, I only like it's almost like I like the game time. I don't like the practice because that's months and months of prep and planning and all this other shit. And you got teams of people and all this other shit. And I hate it. And then I still struggle with defense attorney stuff because I'm like, bro, you're defending the bad guy. But I remember the one lawyer that we had talked to us when we were in the academy, and he was like, yeah, I used to be a defense attorney. Now I work
Mark
for
Michael.
the sheriff's department. Yeah, baby. And we were like, well, which one do you like more? He goes, well, when I was a defense attorney, I drove a Jag. Now I drive a Chevy Impala. You tell me. And then we were like, well, what did you like dealing with shitheads? He goes, let me tell you this, you cops. This is how you guys will learn to hate defense attorneys until you need one, and then you'll want a really good one. I was like, oh shit. Let me tell you something. Having gone through my career, being 41,
100% understand.
I understand what he means.
The importance of having a really good lawyer.
Yeah,
Highly, well,
both sides actually,
yeah,
prosecutor and defense, both.
like you said, it's the game time thing, right? So you see, what's the most recent thing is Young Thug's lawyer, Brian Steele. There's a beast, bro. It's like you got
Yeah.
Young Thug off of Rico and the whole Diddy thing. I'm like, bro, that's a beast right there of an attorney and a legal team. So
It's a game plan.
I'm like,
it's a game plan that's
yeah,
executed.
man. I know people, like you said, everybody knocks defense attorneys until you need one, and then you're like, hey man, I need you to whatever you do, I need you to do the thing that you do that's been working. I need that. So
I saw a meme on, I think it was World Star or whatever, and this kid, or he's like a young rapper, whatever. He goes, yo, he took a picture with his attorney. He goes, shout out to my lawyer. I was going to get 30 days in jail. Now I got 9 years of probation. Thanks, bro. The comments just, he was like, bro, what's wrong?
do your 30 and get out of there.
You crazy? 9 years?
You're going to be back in 30
bro, he
days,
got you, bro.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
So yeah, it goes both ways, bro. Shit. All right. Anyway, back on top. So you get out of college. So talk your college career different than mine because I spent all 4 years at Tennessee State. I just had it in my mind to do that, but I've learned, and I didn't know this, that's actually abnormal, especially for athletes. Unless it's a really big school like Alabama, Florida State, whatever, some of these bigger schools where you're like, well, even those, because we would have people who were like third or fourth string from one of those big schools come play because it was D1, but it was a smaller, Ohio Valley, but they wanted the playing time. And then they'd go to a different, because they need a game film, right? And then you'd also have guys who went to like a JUCO or D3, they'd come play, and then they try to go to a bigger school, whatever it is. So it's very, transitory. Like people just, not for me. I was like, this is where I'm going. I'm familiar. I'm happy with what's going on, even though I don't think we ever had a winning season the whole time I was there. The year before I went there, they won the district championship. They all had diamond rings and all the championship rings. And then, maybe it's just me. It was never in the cards for me to win a championship. I've talked about it before, but clearly do. Clearly.
My college career was,
what was your,
I guess, a little bit, I will say it was a little bit in flux, it seems like, but I think it did ultimately shape my, there was
this was pre-portal, right? You didn't have the portal back then.
So, I mean, I started at the USF for a year, ended up, sitting behind a couple of guys that were really, really, really fucking good. But I ended up playing a position that we didn't really use. So we ran the spread. I was playing fullback. So we don't really use it. So it's not really a whole bunch of opportunity for playing time.
Yep. Oh, I'm learning shit. I didn't know you were a fullback. I just thought you were a linebacker. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it that way. Just a linebacker. Linebacker's bad motherfucker. Yeah, no. I didn't mean to phrase it that way. But I didn't realize you played fullback.
But we didn't really use that position at the time. You know what I mean? So we ran the spread offense. So I was like, it's probably not in my best interest to kind of, to stay here, to do this, right? So
keep doing this.
I was a local guy too. So the coach was Jim Levitt at the time. I remember us having a conversation. He's like everything about, because we were talking about this. He's like, I know you're a good athlete and you play baseball, everything about going back to doing that. At the time, I was what, 18 years old. So at the time, I was like, I'm offended by this, but he's probably,
I was gonna say that kind of sounds like a backhanded
yeah,
comment,
yeah,
bro.
but but
To
at,
me,
at
but
the
go
time,
ahead. I'm
I
listening.
think
I'm
it's kind of
sorry,
how I
bro.
took
Yeah,
it, as opposed to like, what do you mean? Like, I'm here to do this, But looking back on it, there was probably more of like an wide scope of thing. I was like, no, just go somewhere else. So that's how I ended up going to Grambling the next year. Bro, Grambling is
that's
a
a big
very
school,
historic
bro.
school, very big school. That was my first time actually
Yeah,
being away for an extended period of time, like kind of like on your own. I went there with like no car, whatever. There was a couple other guys that I knew from the area that were up there. So again, that was the first time
yeah,
kind of like being out like on your own, kind of thing. And I actually probably had my one of my better years of academia there because really nothing else to do besides play ball, go to class, do homework. And if people don't know where it
it's in the
is, like
middle of fucking nowhere.
Louisiana is the name of the town. I was like, but the next closest city would be Ruston, which is where Louisiana Tech is, and that's like a 20-minute drive. So we would have to we'd all like pile in the car and like have to like, hey man, we're making a Walmart run, which is like 20 minutes, 20 minutes, like a 20-minute drive away to the Walmart. That's how far. That's how
Yeah,
away
yeah.
from everything else like it is. But I was like, after a while, I was like, you know what? This is just like, I don't know if I could do this for another, 3, 4 years or whatever. So I was like, I gotta get back home. So like you said, there's no portal. And I ended up knowing the guy on the staff at Bethune at the time. So I ended up coming back down. And for people that don't know, Bethune-Cookman is in Daytona Beach, which is like a 2-hour drive from Florida. So it's still away. Sorry, from Tampa. So it's away, but it's not, yeah,
Yeah, but
very, very,
vastly,
very, very,
very
very
different,
different.
bro.
I tell you, I was like, I went to college on the beach. I mean, I would just, you could drive on the beach, you go to the beach. It's an
Yeah,
amazing
exactly.
place. That side of Florida is beautiful. It's amazing. So it was a lot better personally for me to be there and still kind of like be away, and still have the ability to kind of come back and forth. So that's kind of why I ended up finishing everything out right there. My getting my degree there. So it's and that's what I've learned about. So to back up a little bit, the being influx of my college career, I was like, you know what? That's not how I wanted that to go, right? That's not how I foresaw that going into it. It's like,
Yeah,
and then to back up, I had a couple looks from like initially going into like, hey, like West Point or Air Force Academy. But at the time, should have done that. I was like, yeah, but I was also 17 at the time. And this was in 2004. We're hot and heavy into
uh-huh.
war on terrorism, hell, hot and heavy in Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever. When people say, and again, I didn't really have a whole bunch of like military, there's people in my family from the military, but not like a whole lot of heavy like military like influence in making this decision. At 17, when they say, hey, the contract is 8 years, that sounds like an eternity at 17. You're like, it's like, I was like,
It's half
bro,
your
that's
life.
that's almost
That's
half
half
of
your
the
life,
life
bro.
that you
Yeah,
lived already. So like, in the great, you don't really have
yeah,
the life experience to understand how much life you're going to be living, right? Projected out wise. Because you're like, 8 years, I'm only 17. That's almost half the time I've been here. So I'm like, yeah, no, I'd rather go just do this route. Probably, maybe like a major fork in the road, per se. Knowing what I know now, I probably would have gone
yeah.
that route and just, probably would have set you up for life a little bit differently.
One of my
Yes, it's
many
not doing that,
regrets
right?
is I never joined the military.
But then again, look back, I was like, I wouldn't. There's a lot of things, a lot of good things in my life that I've experienced and been able to attain and accomplish that I probably would not have the same opportunity to experience or to acquire having gone that route. So I can't really say it's like, oh, I regret it, or, whatever. But it's just like it is. I do. That's probably one of the things I look back on. I was like, I wonder what that would have been like. Not like a regret, but just like a what if.
Yep.
After finishing, I did. So I think I did run away from the law enforcement thing for a little bit initially. It's like, oh, I want to kind of like find my way. I want to, do something different. Maybe I was actually a really good friend of mine. Her fiance was a general manager at a Champ Sports. So he actually gave me my first like. So let me back up a little bit. I was actually doing. I was working at what two men in the truck initially. So, right. So I was moving for
Bro, I
like
did
six
that too.
months while doing whatever. It is a grind,
Oh,
bro. It's a
it's a
grind. It's a
grind, bro.
grind, and it's
Grind.
So I respect it, but it kind of it did help me well later on in life, moving shit around and like leverage, learning about leverage, right? Yeah. So my first
Yeah,
real
take
full
that
time
back.
job was like was the stock boy at Champ Sports. So that was my first like 9 to 5. you know.
Now, were you a sneakerhead before
I
that,
don't know.
or
I
is
was
that what
sneakerhead.
got you
I was
into
sneaker. I've
being
always loved sneakers. Sneakerhead before that, right? Yeah, but you can't. I mean,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
especially so a lot of my collection of shoes
No.
that I've matched over time. People are like, you spend 90 minutes sales. Like, first of all, it's a 30% discount. And every once in a while I'll be like half off. So I was like, I know what you paid for those. I know what I paid for those. It's not the same thing. Right? But
Yeah.
but that is how I kind of like was able to kind of get a lot of the stuff that I had acquired over time was working there. But I mean, it was also a good experience, learning the 9 to 5 thing and also realizing like I don't want to do a 9 to 5 forever. I was like, one, in retail, two, just I'm like, I can't do this shit the same day every day, all the time, whatever. So those probably first year or so out of school and, kind of getting your foot into the real world some, kind of realizing,
Yeah.
having some experiences like, I don't really know if I want to do this for the long haul, right? Not knocking it by any means. I was like, but this is not going to be very fulfilling for me. To take it back family wise, my uncle's dad was a deputy sheriff in Hollis County back in the day, right? So a lot of my very, very early on experiences with like law enforcement were always very positive because when I was small, we would go visit. Sometimes he'd be getting off work or going into work, so he'd be like, "Oh, let me hold his hat," walking around the house with the hat on, the whole like. So it's been around. I've been around it. Sergeant Rodney Harrison was tragically murdered here in Hillsborough County some years ago. Was actually one of my little league coaches back in the day, right? So
I did not know that. I don't think you've ever shared that, bro.
another city councilman here in Tampa, Orlando Goods, one of my little league coaches, who was a TBD officer for a long time before he transitioned into politics. So I've had a lot of like influences here and there with like the law enforcement thing. We had in high school we had a program. One of our teachers started like a criminal justice, not really like a club, but like a criminal justice kind of thing. So which our school resource deputy is very involved in. So she would say we would go to the courthouse, have mock trials, the whole nine. So a lot of things that I learned about civics and about law enforcement was through that experience in high school. It was like, okay, this is you're getting an actual view of what it is. And I remember our law enforcement deputy, our school resource deputy, Nate Johnson, came, I think it was like my sophomore year. And he actually was actually at that school the whole time I went to college, did some life stuff, got to the agency, went to the agency, made it back, actually got into school resource and kind of like back full circle. He was still there. And oh, he's like, good to see. I always knew you had something good in you. That you'd be a good fit for this. So it was like a nice little the full circle moment. But so like I said, I did kind of like run away from it for a
Yeah.
little bit. But then once I kind of like sat down and thought about it over the long haul, it was okay. And then my background investigator, so like she didn't sugarcoat anything. She's like, hey, this is process, this is the job, this is like the ins and outs of it. As much as you can explain it to somebody who hasn't gone through it, right? And put it in a way
Yeah.
where it's still appealing to you. She's like, listen, she's like, look, you may not never be rich doing this job, but you'll never be broke either.
Yeah. Pay your
You know,
bills.
in doing it, I was like, it's one of the few things. Not saying a few things, but one of the things in my life that I've always seemingly been fulfilled at doing this job, and it's allowed me to do other things that bring me fulfillment in life as well. So I can never knock the experience or knock the decision to come and start doing this.
Well, also, just because I know you,
Yes,
you're a
well,
huge
yeah, that
comic book
part.
nerd, which, yeah. And this is something you told me, but we could talk about it. But you always like
Yeah, so
Batman. Well, you talk about it, but one of an
this
additional
was
inspiration, which I still find, again, when people meet you, they don't know you. They just see BJ, big motherfucker, strong as shit, and then you're like, can wax poetically about Marvel, DC. I'm like, what, bro? What the fuck? Like, I mean, I read, but I don't know as much
yeah.
as you
So I
do,
did.
and I grew up with it.
Yeah, I did
Go
read a
ahead.
lot of
It
comics
was
growing
also an
up, right?
inspiration.
And Spider-Man was one of my favorite ones. Batman was definitely one of my favorite ones. But the thing that intrigued me the most about Batman was that he was one of the only guys at the time that I was reading that didn't have any fucking superpowers. Didn't have superpowers, right? He's the world's greatest detective. He's smart. He's physically fit. I mean, obviously outside of the fucking money, right? He's rich. He's got, he seems to have everything that you want. And so it's a very big. So when people would ask me back, when I was smaller, like, what do you want to be? I want to be a fucking superhero. I want to be fucking Batman. I want to be like, I want to be fucking Spider-Man, whatever. But obviously Batman is the most. So I'm like, yeah. So when people ask me like, what made you kind of get into the law enforcement thing too? I was like, well, another inspiration. It was like, I wanted to be Batman growing up. And I was like, and this is, honestly the closest thing that you can get
Yeah.
to it. I was like, you got the fucking, you got the fucking bat belt, you got the, uniform, whatever. You're driving the car, you get the, whatever. So like, it's the closest thing. I was like, and the biggest thing about Batman is his mind, right? The world's greatest detective. So that was also a big thing. So it is fulfilling on that end to be like, well, I did get to kind of, feel like yourself as like a superhero-esque type thing, in your own mind. Obviously we're not fucking superhuman by any stretch of the
Uh-huh.
imagination, but it is a nice inspiration to kind of like have that little piece of it.
No, for sure. For sure. I mean, you and I have talked many hours about that. But so that
Yeah.
kind of brings us to Police Academy. And unfortunately, sadly, in my opinion, they've done away with the 2 weeks of paramilitary style. But let me just lay the groundwork. I was a banker and became, got hired to be a cop. They send you this list of all the shit you're supposed to have. They give you like a duffel bag. You show up in jeans, a t-shirt and tennis shoes. You shave your head, all this other shit. I don't know if I don't know if I had to do that, but I did it anyway, whatever. And you pull into the training facility and they are immediately yelling at you, screaming in your face, dumping your shit everywhere. And you're like, oh my God, I got to do this for 2 fucking weeks. Cause you live there. You're sleeping on a twin size cot that they had to get from the prisons. I assume they had to. And thus begins 2 weeks of getting your ass fucking kicked. 4 a.m. wake up, mile long, 2, 3 mile long runs, which for me, that's insane. I might as well be running a marathon. This body not built for that. And, just a fucking grind. And we meet, and that's where we met. But what was your impression and your experience?
I mean, obviously, we both come from, sports backgrounds. And so people yelling and the two-a-days and the hard work. And I was like, and I got, we're kind of not fresh out of college, but like still in that.
Oh, I was not fresh out of college, baby. I was 28. I had 2 kids, and I was
not fresh out of college.
sitting behind a desk.
Still fresh, like the mind. I still understand what's happening. It's not this.
Yeah,
not unfamiliar to me, right? So my experience was like, not that it was fun. I mean, it was challenging. It was challenging at the time, right? But at the same time, it's like I've already had some experience with the stress of like other life shit. I'm like, first of all, I was like, all they're doing is yelling at us. I was like, I'm gonna have to run anyway. It's like, have you guys ever been to 2 days? You guys ever been to football? You guys ever been to summer camp? No. And I was like, this is okay. Well, all right.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it was good because I do remember it weeded some people out initially. There was a couple who rang the bell like the first day.
Yes, it did.
A couple
like
that first
3.
week. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was more of a annoying experience as opposed to, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's like, just like, I was like, they can't touch you guys, right? You do know that, right? I was like, they're just yelling in your face.
Well, I wonder how you would have done with the state police one, because I forgot, because remember, like, hey, they're just yelling, they're not touching you, they're not going to hurt you. State police, bro, smack you right in the fucking face, brim you in the fucking head. I'm like, oh, bro, the fight, like, I was ready to fucking rage, and I was 33, 34 at that time, so I'm already older, and I'm like, motherfucker.
I was like, I get the Asian thing. I was like, you put your hands on the motherfucking problem.
Well, everyone learned very quickly. Hey, Martin doesn't like to be hit in the face. No, I do not. Don't fuck it. You can do whatever else. Don't hit me in the fucking face.
You know my philosophy. Hey, we're all men here. All right. So listen, you're in charge as much as I'll let you be in charge. Yeah.
Also true. I will say though, I look back on it and I did enjoy the time. Meaning I learned. I mean, I don't know. I say it's sad that it went away because the thing is, you're going from being a civilian to law enforcement. It is different. It's not a desk job. It is a profession. You are going to work in some horrendous environments. You're going to be hot. You're going to be uncomfortable. You need to be able to not only perform your job, but at a high level. Because and I struggle with saying these things sometimes. It's not always life or death, but you will be put in life or death situations when you are hot, tired, uncomfortable, whatever the situation may be. You'll have foot pursuits through marshy terrain, scratches, whatever. That you got to be on your shit. You can't be like, oh man, I'm uncomfortable. So I don't know if I could do this. You're going to get hurt or you're going to get somebody else hurt. So in that capacity, I think it was a positive. And the yelling, people will yell right in your fucking face. And if you don't know how to react, if you either shut down or on the flip side, get super angry, both of those options are no good when you're in uniform law enforcement capacity, because you need to stay calm. You can't get angry.
We called you to show up and handle it. Now you can't handle it. No.
Now we're getting calls about you. There's a deputy losing his mind.
To be able to handle the stress, and I think that's why I do agree it was good, because it put you under some sort of stress, right? Some sort of stress to see who can handle it.
Yeah.
like I say that now when people they say that shit about me now, I'm like, bro, you never seen me get like upset and like angry or too amped up or whatever. I'm like, what am I amped up for? There's nothing to be amped up about.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not having
It's
a
not
me.
happening to me.
Second of all, I was like, they called us
Yeah.
to come handle it. I was like, so you have to essentially remain calm. Now I was like, somebody,
Yeah, and you're usually dealing with people at their worst. Like meaning like either this is the worst thing that's ever happened to them or something's going on and
yeah,
they've lost
they're in
control of
crisis.
themselves, whatever it is. You can't feed into
So
that.
it is a, yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
It's while
for sure.
it's simulated, but it is as much as you can get at the moment. So I mean, I do understand, I do get it. I think it is. I would like to, I guess, see it come back a little bit in that manner, especially someone who's done the
Yeah.
recruiting thing for a little while. And this is my own personal opinion. I think there are a lot of cops who are maybe soft, right? Soft, I think is very
Yeah.
dangerous.
Which is
Soft, I mean,
dangerous.
and soft mentally, maybe soft like emotionally, don't know how to deal with stress, don't know how to deal with things, and kind of separate stuff that needs to be separated. So, we can, things can be difficult and challenging as well, but we need to deal with this after the fact, not in the moment. Like I said, I think it's a lot of people who are not used to being uncomfortable, have never dealt with uncomfortable things, emotionally, mentally, physically, so they just don't
Yeah.
know how to handle it. I'm like, like you said, I think that's dangerous. I think that's maybe we're not doing our just due, but not feeding that into our hiring process for sure.
Yeah, they're kind of, and again, we talked about it before, but we'll talk about it again. The physical fitness, mental fitness, or I'll call it mental fitness. That's fine. That's something you can be taught that, I guess, or exposed to it, I guess. Not sure, but physical fitness, the only way to be physically fit is to do the work. And when you talk about being soft and scared and stuff like that, if you are physically fit, which I think also ties into self-defense or some type of fighting style, martial arts, whatever it is, you have that confidence that you know you can handle yourself will solve a lot of problems that you've seen on the news where people are
Mhm.
so quick to go to a weapon or whatever because they're scared.
I would agree, and I've always said this. I was like, there's nothing more dangerous than a scared person with a gun. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Well, it's scary even
yeah,
if they're your
exactly.
partners.
Yeah, I don't want to be around. I don't want to be around it. I don't want to be around it. Against the guy can't be trusted. I don't trust him to be a pillar of fucking understanding in a rock.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know much more to add on that because again, we're talking about specifically for the profession, your law enforcement profession. You know, there's just so much that gets thrown at you. It's a lot of work. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work on your body and it takes a certain level of discipline. I'm speaking from someone who has fluctuated on all scales where I started off, I wasn't responding well to what I was seeing, what I was dealing with. I didn't deal with it well, got help, meaning I talked about it, worked through my issues, realized what they were. Physically, I think I gained, I don't know, I was fat as fuck. My uniform was like, my buttons were in 24 status. They were like stretched all the fucking to the max. And you're working 12, sometimes 17 hours a day, depending on what you got. And you still have to have the discipline and the drive to say, I need to get up, go for a run, go work out, whatever it is. And not eat your feelings or not stop at the Taco Bell or whatever fast food. You know what I mean? Like bro, it takes a lot of fucking drive to do that and do it consistently every fucking day.
It will, and it has presence bears taking a toll. It will take a toll on your body. It has taken a toll on my body over the years. Like whether you're working nights is a whole other beast. Working days is a beast. You try to add family stuff in there and try to add in, like you said, I got to be physically fit. And I think it's one you have a responsibility to yourself, responsibility to your family, but also a responsibility to the citizens to be able to. And I do take this shit seriously. It's you have a responsibility to the citizens that you work for or that your hell is like, they're calling you to come handle things that they cannot handle. I was like, so if you show up and you're not able to help them or handle them
Yes.
in some sort of way, I think you are doing a disservice to the profession by not being able to do that. Not to say that, that's just my personal thought. That's a very generalized statement, right? I know it can be taken out of context, it can be skewed in any kind of way somebody wants to skew that. But I do think at a very base level, you need to be able to show up with something in some form of way to assist people.
So you feel differently than the fire chief out in LA who, when somebody said, how are you going to get my dad from the third floor in a fire when you can't pass a PT test? And she said that he got himself there. He can get himself out.
I disagree with that. It is.
That's a wild statement, bro. That's a wild statement. You're getting paid with taxpayer dollars to go deal with situations. You're like, well, he got him in that. He got himself in that situation.
Yeah. I was like, yeah,
Bro, imagine if you
yeah.
said that as a cop. Well,
It's like, yeah,
you
that's
got
true,
yourself
right?
in
But
this
that's also why
situation.
I'm calling you to come help. So I do think
That's wild.
that plays a big part on it. You know, like I said, I know we were talking about something pretty six on a different episode about just like, 10K your body over the years. And I was talking about it. I was like, man, first of all, I've been playing sports since I was like 5 years old. Sports, a lot of
Uh-huh.
combat shit, whatever. I was like, what annoys me is like these people who pick up fitness and like weightlifting and all this kind of shit, like later on in life, who've never done anything earlier in their life. And I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
it gotta be this. So I was like, first of all, how many bones have you ever broken? Have you ever been hit before? Have you ever been in a fight before? Has someone ever been actively trying to kill you? I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things, and I should have to say this. I was like, you know what? This body feels like a if you take a you take a 4 crown dick it's been a police car. It's got fucking 300,000 miles on it. It's a '96, 300,000 miles on it. Versus the one that's been in your grandma's
Uh-huh.
driveway. That's also a '96, but has 80,000 miles on it. I was like, yeah, I'm more on the line to this one. It's like
Uh-huh.
it's a lot more. It's another. Yeah, I got miles on this body though. I got miles and miles on this body. I know how it's going to
Yeah.
perform.
I
It's
know how it's going
held
to
up
perform.
very well. I just have to take care. I got to do a little. I got to more oil changes. I got to do more upkeep, more tune-ups. So it's I try to keep it in generalities. Put it this way: taking care of yourself is very important for you, your family, and the people that you serve. We'll keep it at that.
Yes. Well said, sir. I do want to transition to one thing because this is something I learned with you on the road. And it's something we talked about originally. Because we were
Please.
talking about laws being racist. And my point was, no, they're just laws. And that sprung the conversation of how are laws enforced can be viewed as racist. And the example I'm going to give, we worked in a high crime area, low income area, and we would do traffic stops on a lot of people with bicycles because they have to adhere to the rules of the road, even if you're on a bike. So you don't have lights or whatever, you run a stop sign or whatever it is, you could pull them over. Now, in full disclosure, a lot of times people on the bikes were trafficking in narcotics or whatever.
For the court, yeah.
It is what it is, but not everybody. Not everybody, right? Some are just whatever. They're just riding a bike. All true. All these things are true at once. And you were like, try to go pull bikes over and the nicer area, which I think was Avila or something like that. It's one of the nicer areas in Tampa, and use the exact same statutes you're using now. Because also the thing is, when you pull somebody over on a bike, do they have their license on? All these things, right? Do they have their license? Do they have their wallet? Most like I don't when I go ride my bike. I don't, right? And I said, all right, bet I will. So I went up to I think it was Alpha One. I don't know what it is now, but it was a nice area. I think I made 2 traffic stops on a bike. And let me explain. These guys were $2,000 bikes with the full biking outfit with the little shoes and shit. Yeah. And they were just running stop signs because they're just riding their bike. And I'd pull them over and they're like, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, you got to adhere to the rules of the road. You got your ID on you? And they're like, no. Like, what the fuck? Like, why? I made it I had 2 stops before our sergeant at the time called me on my cell phone. I was like, what the fuck you doing? Traffic enforcement. He goes, get the fuck out of there and go back to your zone. Stop doing that. And I think I came right back to where you were and you were like, Sarge call you? And I was like, he sure did. He sure did.
Uh-huh.
Sure did. Now, with that being said, you did the one stop at night where somebody walked across the road at a 45-degree angle or whatever the fuck it was, just to be like, can you even do this? And then the guy goes, yeah, I got 100 pack of crack in my pocket. You're like, God damn it.
I had actually given him his license back already.
So,
I was like, bro, you could have fucked
yeah, he was like, go away.
10 minutes ago. He's like, what's in your pocket, man? Oh, it's crack. I was like, are you serious? You could have 100% lied and just walked off.
Well, actually, bro, hold on. That ties into another story I got. So you grew up in the same area and then you ended up patrolling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the story. Yes, bro.
Yeah,
we were
still
early.
FTL,
I think we were still in
the
training.
The high school that I went to, for people who to put a picture to this, the high school that I went to, as I said, it's a neighborhood school, but it's the neighborhood that I was in is an older neighborhood of Tampa, right? So it's a lot more. It's one of the older schools, so the neighborhood is a lot more established. So you have the neighborhood has changed over time originally from when it. So it's kind of like in a neighborhood, but the neighborhood has changed over the years. And where we were was kind of like on the main road, maybe a mile away from the school, if that. But yeah, I remember we were in FTL, and
we were working an armed robbery just occurred. shots fired, all this shit. I think there was even a high speed chase. They lost the car, dumped it to the neighborhood, whatever the fuck it was. And you were there. I ended up, I was in another zone, so I ended up driving, whatever. But we're trying to get witnesses. We're trying to figure all this out. And while you're standing there talking to a witness or a victim, I can't remember who you're talking to.
Hey, DJ, man. I was like,
and you're like, yo, I'm working. Shut up.
So yeah, I'm working.
Man.
But I will say, even in working over that in that area, it is interesting because, like I said, even though we grew up in different places, we've had obviously I am a person of color, right? And you've had plenty of background with people of color just from where you grew up in the school that you went to, right? So a lot of these things culturally are not foreign to you. Right. So like, I mean, every weekend they call and be like, they're outside in the parking lot, it's not 50th. They're like, yeah, we know. So what? It's like they're having a barbecue.
Yeah. No, I like going with you because sometimes we get a plate.
And I didn't usually I just roll up and like, hey, I'm gonna get out of the car. I was like, I roll up like, hey man, they're calling again. I know y'all ain't doing nothing. We ain't trying to ruin your night.
I don't know.
Let's just be mindful that they're calling again. Have a good
yeah.
What's on the grill though?
What you got on the grill though? Let me get a plate.
Let me get a plate.
Let me get a plate.
But I think that does play into it too. When you have people who are of the community and used to people in said community, leads to like a better work experience for the people who live there and the people who are working there.
Well, you had a line because I've seen it with my own eyes how even within the Black community how some people speak to you and you said that sometimes. Oh, yeah. You're too black for the uniform, too blue for the brothers,
right? So it's and that's always been one thing. That it was an adjustment initially dealing with that, especially early on in my career, because you have people who'll be like, oh, from your community, or other people come be like, well, it's not going to try to ostracize you, right? But it's like, hey, you're not one of us because you work over there with them. Okay, well, that's one way to look at it. Or you're a pig too, blah blah. Okay, well, that's how you feel about it. That's fine. But then at the same time, it's like, you don't think that I know there's people who don't like me, even though I'm in the same uniform as them? I was like, I know that. I'm aware. Yeah. I'm aware. And they're like, how do you do that? How do you, you got to be one of the good ones and like weed them out. And I'm like, let me explain. I understand what you're saying. I was like, but let me explain to you what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to weed something out that you don't know exists until it comes up. It's like, it's like, for example, it'd be like, hey, have you ever had, think of a food that you've never had before, right? Be like, for instance, like, have you ever had fucking, I don't know, escargot? Like, never had it before. Do you know if you like it or not? Well, no, I've never had it. Exactly. I was like, it hasn't come up yet. I was like, so until that thing comes up, until you've had the opportunity to say yeah or nay, you don't know. So I'm like, a lot of it is, I said, racism is one of those funny things. Not that racism is funny, but it's one of those things that you're not going to know until something happens. And then you're like, wait a minute, that's what you think? Because again, there's a lot of people, and I've had this experience where it's like something will come up that'll kind of make me look at them sideways, and then I just let them kind of like talk and kind of just like listen to them. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't actually, you don't, you didn't realize that I was black. You just realized that we're doing the same job. So what you think we're alike because we're doing the same thing, and that I have the same thoughts and feelings you mindset as you because we're doing the same job.
Yeah.
No, bro. Something's like, okay. That's a note.
Well, tying into that, 2014, and that's relevant because it's 2014, and you and I went to a call in the middle of Tampa, and it was like a fight or some bullshit, I don't remember, but it was your call, but I was there to back you up, and this kid comes out, I don't know, like 9, 10, I don't know how old the fucking kid was, and he goes, and you're like, hey, I need to talk to your dad, and he looks up, he yells up to it, hey, Paul, this colored deputy's looking for you. Bro, we both looked at each other. I was like,
bro, you got to handle this.
Colored deputy. I think I stepped up. I was like, yo, what in the fuck? Bro, it's 2014 and they still talking like that. Like the kid was just, I don't think it wasn't, to your point, I don't think he was trying to be nasty or derogatory to you. This is just how does kid talk.
It's like, do you know where you are right now? Oh. That's crazy as fuck. Yeah, man. But I would say just overall, very blessed, very lucky. Very fulfilled in doing this job. 14 years now? Yeah, 14 years. Yeah, 14 years now. It's gone. I've seen some things in my career that some things that I think are unique to this job, some things that I think are not even to this place are things that can happen anywhere in any profession, right? So you learn the professional side of jobs and how people do, and the pitfalls of corporate life. Right? This is still a corporation, it's still a business, so it is definitely a learning process for sure. I can say I do remember this about our academy time, is that you and I were obviously probably some of the bigger guys there, and I never forget this shit.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah,
other big
I
guy
never
fell
forget this
out. He
shit.
broke his ankle or
It's
something.
because I said in the academy it was just a lot of fucking running, bro. All I want to do is fucking run all day, every day, and I'm just like, I remember I think it was like you actually can't win thing. I was like, yeah, but who's gonna put the handcuffs on when it's time? I was like, it's all fun and games until somebody needs somebody to put the handcuffs on. And now you want me around? Now you want my help? Now you're not talking that shit again? Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. Well, back to fitness.
What the handcuffs on?
Who's going to put the handcuffs on? You can run a 6 minute mile, all that. You know, 5'6", 115 pounds. That's great. What are you going to do when you got 6'8",
Yeah,
400 pound
he's not
dude?
running from you.
Who's
He's
going to put the
actually trying to
handcuffs on?
face you. Now what? Now what?
Yeah, and he's not armed. Now what? Now what are you going to do? Same. I want to touch on it, and this is how we kind of wrapped it up. But if you're still willing, I talk about Abby, because that was something that you experienced
Mhm.
that I have not. I've been in agencies where we lost coworkers, but this one was a little different
Yeah,
for
man.
you.
Yeah. So
Touch on that.
obviously, we're best friends, and I'd say you left me up at the office to go pursue bigger and better things, which is great. But after that, and after just seeing some things happen at the office, that I guess how people kind of like made the exits and stuff like that, kind of left me feeling like, I guess a little bit isolated in the sense of like having somebody like kind of like talk to while you're there at work. For people who don't understand, it's like you spend a lot of time in a car by yourself. So you spend a lot of time by yourself in this profession, especially at this agency, because we work alone. So when you finally have someone that you can talk to during the course of a shift or like a night or whatever, I confide in and do that. It is a great help. It makes the camaraderie go up. It does make the job a little bit easier on a day-to-day basis for doing that. And so once you were gone and off doing your thing, I didn't really have that per se. So when I actually did transition back out onto the road, I did meet Abby, and we kind of like hit it off. She kind of, not that anybody would take your place, but she kind of filled that void of kind of having somebody to confide in and talk to. We ended up, becoming pretty close, and not just talking about work stuff, but like personal stuff, relationship, ironically enough, relationship things. I think the girl that I actually ended up dating at the time was because Abby was the one advocating for her and pushing it, because I was originally being like, nah, I don't. And so like we had that type of like relationship where it's like we're talking about those kinds of things, like whatever. So when she ended up getting, people don't know the story, she was murdered by her boyfriend at the time, who was also a deputy at the office. So that was difficult all in all, because nobody could see it coming. I don't think anybody saw it coming. I mean, her and I used to talk about that situation. Nothing that she ever said to me really alluded to anything getting outside of, maybe they'll just have like a disappearance, which normal people have, right? Nothing that she ever said would allude to like this being a concern. So it's definitely caught everybody off guard. Very, very, very devastating. So it was almost kind of like it's not just losing a coworker, it's losing a friend. So I remember just kind of like, it was, that made it hard to come to work, not really wanting to be there because of other things happening at the time. Made it be like, I just don't want to. It was one of the few times I was like, you know what, I don't really want to come to work. I don't want to come to work. I don't want to be here. It's not like, and for the longest time, I didn't even go inside the district if I could help it. And I would spend a very least amount of time in the district if I could. And I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to anybody out here. It's not that I don't want to do my job. I just don't want to deal with the other stuff, that comes with it. So that was definitely a difficult time, and, but it's one of those things where it's like I'm appreciative for the time that I did get with her. The whole thing is very, very sad. They're still very sad, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if you'll ever, I guess, get over it, but I guess just time doesn't really, like, I don't think time heals things. It just makes it, I guess, for lack of better words, easier to deal with over the course of it. But yeah, man, that was a trying time for sure.
Yeah. And again, you and I, even though I left 2015, you and I have always stayed in touch. Uh, this is how it is. And, with my children, anybody can reach out, and you've been there for most of their big events. But I remember when that happened, and we've had a lot of bullshit happen. We've had a lot of fucked up things happen career wise, personally. And it's such a wild story and how it all went down. And I know we're not getting into the case and all that stuff like that. People want to look it up, they can. But I remember that hit you, bro. That was a rough one.
Yeah, it was
So I was
tough,
worried
man.
about you.
Mhm.
Because you lost your zone partner
It's like a second
again,
time,
pretty
obviously,
much.
that, but I was just like, no. You know what I mean? It's like, it's,
Well, I wasn't there though.
you know, it's, like I said, the job is hard enough in and of itself, right? So I was like, when you find, when it makes it, when you have a little bit of
Yeah.
camaraderie, and to put it more into context, I'm more of an introvert. I'm not the most welcoming, like outgoing person. It takes a while for me to warm up to people. Those people probably people walking around right now thinking that I hate them, and I'm like, that may or may not be true, but I also could just be like, but I also could just like not like have no idea that you're there, and like it's just not a thing to me, right? So it takes me a while to, it does take me a while for me to like warm up to people. So when I do actually like warm up to me, it's very like the people that I warm up to is very important to me, like to have those relationships. So yeah, it definitely hits hard because of that. To put in a little bit more context.
Yeah, and I talk about it in the book that's coming out, but also we talked about before. Like I always wanted to get in law enforcement. Well, I wanted to get back I wanted to get into law enforcement because I enjoy being part of a team, and in a sense that is true. But just like any other team, there's people that you're closer with, that you become friends with, have lifelong bonds with, and even though you're on a team of, if it's football, 100 people, you might not talk to 80 of them ever again. You know what I mean? Or fuck 90 of them. Who knows? Yeah, I'm for real. Law enforcement is the same way. You might have been working alongside somebody for a year, 2 years, and you show up on a call together, and you're like, have I met you?
Because you spell a name wrong. It's like, in your name, I mean, oh, okay, yeah, sorry about that.
What's your name again?
Yeah, about that, man. Yeah, so it does. There are dynamics. Like I said, it's a job with like any other corporation, any other kind of business or whatever, right? There's different dynamics that come with it, right? So people gravitate to other people. They have your corporate structures and things like that. So it's as much as it's different, it is similar to any other job in that sense.
Yeah. Well, bro, I appreciate you sharing that, and appreciate you doing this. Take two. A lot,
I feel like there's more stuff we didn't cover from the first time.
Well, we didn't talk about the hurricane. There was some other stuff, but we've talked about it so much on other podcasts. It is what it is. I think that's a good summary of everything, bro. But I anything you want to leave with?
I did forget the hurricane thing. They're so frequent here that I'm like, which one, bro? What? I was like, I don't get to leave.
Yeah, which one are you talking about?
It's all hurricane shit to me. So I don't know. And then we have.
Well, you did have a good point. You had a good point. We'll wrap it up with this, but you had a good point that people don't think about when cops and first responders are working hurricanes. They're there to try to, people are calling 911. They need help. They want to be rescued. They want to get prepared, whatever it is. You also have your own home, your friends, your family, your loved ones, and you have to leave them, put on the uniform, and go help other people. But your mind is always going to be kind of like making sure.
Well, yeah, that's what was happening at that current moment in time. I was dealing with that. I think when we did, I think I had just maybe had power like a couple of days before that. I think. I think I was actually helping some other people out, getting their stuff together, who had evacuated. It's always like, dog's calling me. It's like, hey man, is everything good there? It's like, I know we evacuated or whatever. It's like, yeah, I'll go check on it. It's like, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I'll let you know. I'll slide through. I'll let you know.
I'll slide through.
So, but yeah, that's a good point. People don't always think about that part. I was like, yeah, like I say, I was stuck here. I was like, I would evacuate too sometimes if you could, but I'm like, but I probably wouldn't. I mean, I always want to be in the shit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I always want to do the shit. It's more fun for me that way.
Fair enough.
All right, brother.
I appreciate you, man.